Dear students, this is Amir Hussain once again. As you know that we are discussing the chapter 4 of history, which is titled as the age of industrialization, and in this chapter we have discussed the first topic, that is what is proto-industrialization or what before industrial revolution. We discussed that, and we also discussed the another topic, that is pace of industrialization, the features of this 19th century industrialization process of Europe. Now today we are going to discuss another topic, that is it is hand labor and steam power. Hand labor and steam power, actually. This is today's topic, hand labor and steam power. Actually what we have to discuss in this is that why did actually the question is why did industrialists why did industrialists prefer in 19th century Europe hand labor over machines? So this is today's topic, hand labor and steam power. Actually we have to discuss actually why did industrialists prefer in the 19th century Europe hand labor over machines? Why in the 19th century industrialists gave more preference to hand labor than to the machines? So this is today's topic. Actually the process of industrialization began, as you know, in Europe in 1750s. It was around 1750s that the process of industrialization began in Europe. However, till the end of 19th century. However, it was found that till the end of 19th century, some industrialists in Europe, they prefer hand labor. They preferred hand labor over machines. Why they preferred the hand labor? Once again I will repeat it, that the process of industrialization actually it began in Europe in 1750s, especially in Britain, in England, the first industrialized or industrial nation, first industrial nation of the world, England. When the industrialization process began there in 1750s, but it was found that till the end of 19th century even some industrialists in Europe they give more preference to hand labor over the machines. That is, they did not prefer machines, rather than they prefer their this hand labor. Why they prefer hand labor? We will discuss the reasons behind. There are some reasons behind this, why they gave more preference to hand labor over the machines. So we will discuss all these reasons in this lecture. There are various reasons why they prefer this hand labor over machines. First important reason is cheap labor. First reason why they give more preference to these hand labor over machines. First important reason is cheap labor. Actually, in 19th century, what happened in the 19th century, there was no shortage of labor. In 19th century, especially in Britain, there was no shortage of labor. So this was the fact. But it was found that poor peasants and vagrants, these artisans and other people, they moved to cities. They moved to cities in large numbers. Right? Although there was no shortage of labor especially in Britain, but even then, poor peasants and vagrants, they moved to cities in large numbers. ये बहुत सारी numbers में बहुत सारे लोग जो है, ये poor peasants खास तौर पे और vagrants जो थे, ये निकल कर आ गए. वैग्रांट्स जो थे ये और पुअर पेजेंट्स जो थे, ये मूव करने लगे सिटीज से. ये मूव करने लगे रूरल एरिया से सिटीज की तरफ बहुत सारी तादाद में. एंड व्हाई दे मूव्ड, द रीजन वाज दे मूव्ड इन सर्च ऑफ जॉब्स. This was the reason why they moved in large numbers from these rural areas, this countryside, to cities, to urban areas. And there, when they reached in these cities, they found that there was no shortage of labor, and due to availability, and there was no shortage of labor. So due to availability of labor, what will happen in these cities? The wages were very low. The wages were even extremely low. जब बहुत ज़्यादा लेबर अवेलेबल था तो वेजेस जो थे, लेबर बहुत ज़्यादा अवेलेबल था, वेजेस जो थे वेजेस बहुत लो थे, वेजेस बहुत कम दिए गए. एंड these industrialists, these industrialists neither they faced the problem of labor shortage nor high wage costs. So when they did not face these types of problems, that is, they did not face the shortage of labor, neither the wage costs were high. Therefore, these industrialists, they preferred the hand labor instead of machines, because they found that machine is required. They needed large capital investments. They needed large capital investment, and they avoided such problem. Therefore, because they had at their they had available at their stepped at their door. They had available the labor, and the labor was available in plenty, and also the wages were low, so it benefited the industrialists, these two things. So industrial, it forced the industrialists, it made the industrialists to go for the, to give preference to hand labor rather than to machines. And they found that machines will they will require heavy or large capital investments, large sums. Therefore better is to give preference to this हैंड लेबर. इसीलिए उन्होंने हैंड लेबर जो है, हैंड लेबर को प्रेफरेंस दी, क्योंकि इनको पता था कि पैसा बहुत ज़्यादा चला जाएगा इनके साथ. सो दिस वाज द फर्स्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट रीज़न वाई they give preference to this these hand labor over machines. First important reason. Second important reason was the seasonal nature of work or seasonal nature of industries. This was second important reason. What this mean? This means that many of the industries were seasonal industries. These were seasonal industries. Many industries were seasonal industries. Therefore, when these were seasonal industries, the demand of labor, or the demand for labor, was also seasonal. It was also seasonal. When the work in the industries, when some of the industries were seasonal industries, कुछ industries seasonal industries, वो एक सीजन में होती थी, दूसरे सीजन में नहीं होती थी. जब वो सीजनल इंडस्ट्रीज थी तो डिमांड लेबर की उनमें सीजनल थी. दिस इज नेचुरल. लाइक we have some industries which were seasonal, like we have gas workers, we have printing, we have book binding, etc. So these industries, these works were seasonal works. Their nature was seasonal, and therefore these workers demanded seasonal labor. And what happened? The demand for labor was, therefore the demand for labor as well as production, the demand for labor as well as production, it keeps on fluctuating. It fluctuated. ये fluctuate हो रहा था with the season. ठीक है? With the season in many industries. बहुत सारी इंडस्ट्रीज जो थी वहां पे डिमांड लेबर की एज वेल एज प्रोडक्शन की जो थी वो फ्लक्चुएट हो रही थी, वो चेंज हो रही थी. क्यों? क्योंकि सीजनल, क्योंकि वो विद द सीजन, सीजन के साथ वो फ्लक्चुएट हो रही थी. जो डिमांड थी लेबर की और प्रोडक्शन की, ये दो चीज़ें जो है सीजन के साथ फ्लक्चुएट हो रही थी, चेंज हो रही थी मनी इंडस्ट्रीज में. देयरफॉर इस हालत में, इन सिचुएशंस में, what industrialists used to do? Industrialists preferred in such circumstances labor hand. They preferred labor hand. Why they preferred labor hand? Because again they wanted to avoid large capital sums, large capital investments, and they wanted to save their investments. They wanted to save their capital, because these industries, if in these industries, instead of hand labor, machines would have been preferred, then they might have costed very high. The costs were very high at that time. So in order to avoid large capital investment, and they needed large capital investments had there been these machines. Therefore, in order to avoid such large investments, in order to save that money, save that capital, these industrialists gave preference to labor. They gave preference to hand labor instead of these machines. So this was second important reason. Third reason was range of products. It was range of products. And what does this reason refers to? Actually, machines produce uniform. Machines produce uniform and standardized goods. Machines produced uniform and standardized goods. They produced these uniform and standardized goods, but the demand was often for goods with intricate designs and specific shapes. Although machines produced huge goods, many goods were a large number of goods were produced by them, these machines, but these machine-based goods were always uniform and standardized goods. बट इनका स्टैंडर्ड भी अच्छा होता था और ये यूनिफॉर्म होते थे, इनमें कोई चेंज नहीं होती थी, कोई बदलाव नहीं होता था. बट द डिमांड इन द मार्केट वाज फॉर गुड्स विद इंट्रिकेट डिज़ाइंस. जो इंट्रिकेट डिज़ाइंस वो बॉर्डर्स लाइक होते थे, इंट्रिकेट बॉर्डर्स, वही प्रेफर किए जाते थे गुड्स, उन्हीं को प्रेफरेंस ज़्यादा दी जाती थी और उन्हीं की ज़्यादा डिमांड थी मार्केट में. एंड आल्सो स्पेसिफिक शेप्स, कुछ गुड्स की स्पेसिफिक शेप्स होती थी, उनको प्रेफर किया जाता था. और आमतौर पे ये डिमांड जो है ये हाई क्लास एज वेल एज जो मिडिल क्लासेस थे, पुअर पीपल थे, उन्हीं की तरफ से थी. देयरफॉर क्या हुआ, देयरफॉर दीज गुड्स, ये जो गुड्स जिनकी डिमांड थी, गुड्स विद इंट्रिकेट डिजाइन्स एंड स्पेसिफिक शेप्स, दीज गुड्स were not possible, they cannot be produced through these machines, rather than it was possible only through hand labor. Only through hand labor that it was only through hand labor that these goods with intricate designs and specific shapes could have been produced. So again it speaks that the preference was again given to hand labor. And another important thing, it has been found that in mid 19th century, in mid 19th century Britain, मिड 19th सेंचुरी ब्रिटेन में ये देखा गया कि 500 वैराइटीज जो थी, 500 वैराइटीज देखी गई हैमर्स की, ऑफ हैमर्स, 500 वैराइटीज ऑफ हैमर्स एंड 45 kinds of axes were seen there in these markets. ये मार्केट में देखी गई ये चीज़ें. एंड मिड 19th सेंचुरी में ब्रिटेन में ये 500 वैराइटीज हैमर्स की, हथौड़ों की देखी गई और 45 जो है किस्में देखी गई इन एक्सिस की. तो ये खुद दिखाता है कि ये चीज़ें जो थी, हैमर या यही एक्सेस जिनकी हाई डिमांड थी, ये पॉसिबल ओनली थ्रू दिस हैंड लेबर थे, एंड दीज वर नॉट पॉसिबल थ्रू द machines. Therefore people as well as, and these things, therefore industrialists preferred the hand labor over these machines, and also these things they have they needed the human skill. इनको human skill की ज़रूरत थी, ना कि machines की. Human skill, and not, they did not need मैकेनिकल टेक्नोलॉजी. इनको मैकेनिकल टेक्नोलॉजी, मशीन टेक्नोलॉजी की ज़रूरत नहीं थी, बल्कि अगर इनको ज़रूरत कुछ किसी चीज़ की थी तो वो ह्यूमन स्किल्स की थी. ये ह्यूमन स्किल्स डिमांड कर रहे थे. फन, इंसानों का फन जो है वही चाहिए था इनको, ना कि मशीन मैकेनिकल टेक्नोलॉजी. देयरफॉर this was another important reason which made the industrialists to go to prefer these hand labor instead of machine. Fourth reason was refinement and class. ये भी एक और रीज़न था क्यों प्रेफरेंस इन्हीं हैंड लेबर को दे दी गई, हम हैंड मेड गुड्स को दे दी गई इंस्टेड ऑफ दिस मशीन मेड गुड्स. सो इट इज़ एक्चुअली हैंड मेड जो थे, हैंड मेड प्रोडक्ट्स, these products were preferred by upper classes. जो अपर क्लासेस थे वही इन हैंड मेड प्रोडक्ट्स, हैंड मेड गुड्स को प्रेफर कर रही थी. लाइक वी हैव एरिस्टोक्रेटस एंड bourgeois class in Europe. These two classes, the upper classes, that is aristocrats, यही nobles वगैरह, and these bourgeois class, they always preferred the capitalist class, they preferred in Europe these handmade products. ये handmade goods, handmade products को preference दे रहे थे, जिसकी वजह से why handmade goods, handmade these products, because they believed that these goods, these products, they symbolize, these goods symbolizes refinement and class. ये गुड्स जो है इनके लिए, हैंडमेड गुड्स, हैंडमेड प्रोडक्ट्स इनके लिए बहुत ज़्यादा माना रखते थे, क्योंकि ये एक सिंबल मानी जाती थी क्लास की. डिस्कसिंग द रीजंस why these industrialists, they preferred in 19th century Europe, especially in Britain, they preferred these hand labor over the machines, and in that we discussed number of causes. And another important cause you can say is also we have discussed it in an earlier lecture, the refinement and class, how these handmade goods, they were the symbols of power. They were considered as symbols of power and also class by the upper classes, upper sections of the society, especially these aristocratic class, nobles and others, and also by these bourgeois. Now these were also these machines. Another important problem with these machines which made these industrialists, some industrialists, to prefer machine, these hand labor over machines was that was fifth is repairment costly. These machines, as I told you earlier, that often they broke down. They used to broke down oftenly, and because of it then their repairment, इनकी repairment जो थी, this was then very costly, ये बहुत ज़्यादा ये कॉस्टली होती थी, इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा पैसा जो है चला जाता था, बहुत ज़्यादा महंगी होती थी इसकी फिर repairment करना. Therefore this again made the industrialists to prefer hand labor over these machines. Another important reason was that these were not effective. These machines, which were earlier claimed by inventors, their inventors and manufacturers, the manufacturers who manufactured these machines and the inventors who invented them, earlier they refer that these industries these machines were very effective. But once these machines were put into effect, they were put into operation in these industries, they proved to be very less effective, but they were not too much effective as were being expected by the industrialists. Therefore again they gave these industrialists, they gave more preference to these hand labor rather than to the machines. So these were the important causes. Hope you have understood this topic well. Thank you.